So if a bad artist copies, and we know usually they're not even good at that, but a good artist steals, that tells me leads more to what I think Josh is, trying to illuminate here, is that you may be influenced by people's work, but then you take it upon yourself and make it your own in what you produce. Right. It's a lot like music. There are no new chords that have not been discovered. If you take the neck of a guitar, there's G, C, and D, B minor, C minor, right? Mm-hmm. Now, you can line up 40 dudes that all can play G, C, and D, but what are they going to do with those chords? Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another great episode of the Tattoo Guardians podcast show. And for all you artists, when you're talking about on the journey of finding your style, I'm trying to make distinctions between what's the difference between straight up copying or stealing someone's shit versus being influenced and trying to emulate. And regardless what comes out of you and how to make it your own unique style when we're all influenced by those that have gone before us. And what does that look like? It's this much and more on today's show. And Hip and the great Joshua Carlton weigh in pretty great on today's topic. It's a good one. Thanks for listening. Hello, brothers. Welcome back. Good to see you, Josh. Good to see you, Hip.
Hey, what's up?
Good to be here.
Man, only good. Now, right before we hit record, Josh asked you a question. You started to share what? What'd you do yesterday? You made some history.
Oh, yeah. So 2 days ago, Matt fucking asked me to facilitate TBM Next Level. And I've sit in on a couple classes prior to that. Just curious, like, well, what's the fucking next level entail? But I, marinated on it, and I didn't want to do it. So automatically that tells me that I should do it.
And why didn't you?
Fear, uncomfortableness, lack of worthiness.
What's the big deal? This is TBM graduates, alumni, on to the next level, invested in a year-long program that wasn't cheap.
Right.
And I called upon you to coach them and teach the class yesterday.
Yeah, and so that's what helped me. That was a big thing that helped was knowing that it's a year long. And it's like, hey, if I fuck this up, they've got fucking 50 more.
Glimmer's got 12 months to repair this.
yeah, so I'm gravy.
Somewhere, somebody's laying back a year from now just putting lipstick on your names on the note.
Cutting their arms and shit.
Right. Remember that one time I paid a lot of money?
I think it's important because you said you would rather
not do it.
But you did.
Yeah.
Because you would rather what?
Fucking, I don't know. This feels like a trick question. I'd rather not do it.
I know, but, but you did do it because.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I would rather do it because I would rather do it and fuck it up and maybe mess something up.
Right.
Versus not do it at all because I would regret not doing it. I would rather regret the shit that I did versus the shit that I didn't do because it would haunt me more.
That resonates so well with me, guys. That's a big problem. We probably all suffer through it to some degree, but I do that a lot. So many times I'll be like, I have to do this. I don't want to do it. And then afterwards I'm like, that was fucking awesome. I'm so glad I did that.
Man.
Most of the time, that's what happens.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
I totally feel that, man, for real. And that's awesome. How was it? I mean, was it
well, at the end, one of the students shared back that I was visibly nervous, which that's cool. Because I've learned through speaking or having to get vulnerable in front of people with even way more intimate shit than what we talked about there. That if I just am like, hey, I'm scared, I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing. So just bear with me and we'll find our way through this together. And we did. And the more it went, the more comfortable I got and realized I was in a safe place all along. It was just that fucking limiting self-doubt that was kicking in and the lies that my mind was trying to protect me and keep me safe. But as we were talking through it, we came across this topic and it's kind of sparked a lot of interest in a lot of people we're talking about it. And the reason I thought it would be a good topic for today is because anytime Matt asks when we're kicking it, like right before we go on, because a lot of time we don't know what the fuck we're talking about until the day of. Sometimes we do if we have an interview or whatnot, give us some time to prepare for the individual. But he was like, he asked me what our topic should be, and I was instantly going to go to the notes we all share, and I was like, well, wait. Because Matt's always like, what do people want to hear? You know, like, what is something we should talk about that people may be interested in? And I remembered last night, this book was shown to me, and I can't remember the exact author, but I've talked to you both about it. I sent you the quote yesterday, Josh, and in it says a bad artist copies and a good artist steals.
Right.
Because, you know, I was talking with, like, you know, Hell City's coming up. I got this piece I'm doing Friday, and I'm like, I've reached out to you. I've reached out to Brenner, Matt. I've put it on the critique thing at our shop, and trying to get some feedback in some direction because I don't know. I just, it's funny because I thought that, like, if you draw something, like, I almost feel bad if I pull up, like if I'm doing some traditional shit, I'm like, I'm not sure how to make that really look super traditional. And I pull up some images, like I almost won't save them so I can like kind of retain the image, because if I have it and up in my square on my iPad, it's like, oh, well, now I'm cheating and I'm stealing.
Just straight copying it. Right.
Right. But the thing is like, it was put to me yesterday. We have a member from TBM that was live in class, Mr. Matt Alsman, and like on the way home, we slow rolled it, and he was talking like, dude, there's nothing different under the sun. It's been done 1,000 times. So you're just stealing work and you're creating it and making it your own. And I was like, well, that makes sense, because like I got a fucking new Chevy Traverse, and the Ford edition of that is the exact same thing. It's just got a Ford emblem on it. You know, so it's like all it is stealing, and it kind of takes the sting out of that, you know, because really that's what all artists do is steal.
Well, especially traditional work, you know what I mean? Like there's methods that are handed down. You've heard me speak on this before. So again, I harken back to the sketchbook a lot, but my thoughts on this is, if you struggle with that, is to get these images that you're a little bit afraid of and draw them so many times. Like at first you're just tracing it and copying it, right? But then it's muscle memory. And then pretty soon you've got a handful of ways that you draw roses, but you should definitely try to like let it naturally get your own kind of spin on it. You know what I mean? And then eventually you've got these traditional rules that work, and you can tell like this definitely looks like a Burt Grimm rose, but you've also added your own to it a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But by redrawing it over and over again, eventually you don't have to go look it up, right? And copy it. Then it's, you know, it becomes muscle memory, becomes your own thing. Like people say they suffer from drawing hands a lot. And again, I always say, well, if you just fill a sketchbook up with all these different you know, you got your own hand to look at, right? Take photographs or hold it in front of you and just draw it so many times that it becomes really natural to you to just be able to remember how to draw hands. Yeah, I don't know. I hope that doesn't sound like I'm babbling, but that's what I always go back to.
Yeah, and what was that statement again from the book?
A bad artist copies and a good artist steals.
Right. So when I hear that, you know, trying to make the distinction, like a bad artist might just copy your shit and try and replicate it,
right?
Which we've all seen, and some of you artists have gotten that high form of flattery where motherfuckers will just take your shit
Dave
and
Tevenall
copy
is
it.
Like one of the top ones that experiences that.
But most,
and as a realism artist, that's what you do.
Yeah,
right. But 9 out of 10 times when you see someone copy someone else's shit, they didn't even execute it well. Like that's why you can see those comparisons of like, here's the authentic version, and here's the copycat that tried it, and you can tell not even fucking close. Right. But then when you say, so if a bad artist copies, and we know usually they're not even good at that, but a good artist steals, that tells me leads more to what I think Josh is, you know, trying to illuminate here, is that you may be influenced by people's work, but then you take it upon yourself and make it your own. And what you produce, you know, it's a lot like music. There are no new chords that have not been discovered. If you take the neck of a guitar, there's G, C, and D, B minor, C minor, right? Now you can line up 40 dudes that all can play G, C, and D, but what are they going to do with those chords, right? We could just bring up the Beatles alone and probably point to 1,000 bands that were influenced by the Beatles, but yet, and so even if they stole something that survived from Lennon, but then made it their own and called themselves Nirvana, right? Or whatever.
Or Oasis.
Right. You know, whatever the case may be. And even in hip hop, I mean, we see the evolution of hip hop, you know. When it began, the whitest white dude today could rap over original hip hop.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the whitest white dude can't rap over current day hip hop.
Right.
So we do see evolution. But every guy ever interviewed, I was just watching a Lil Wayne interview before we started, and he named off his top 5 favorite MCs of all time. And I'd be shocked that Lil Wayne's number 1 influence was Missy Elliott.
Really?
Yeah, and that mind blowing. And yes, he gave shout out to Jay-Z and Biggie, but his number 1 influence was always Missy Elliott. And you just never know. And I know, like, I'm one of my number 1 influences as a tattoo artist is Joshua Carlton.
Stop it.
But to this day, no one's ever looked at one of my pieces and be like, oh, that's Carl. Well, maybe a few people is trying to make me feel good that know me. Like my wife might be like, hey, that looks kind of like Carlton, you know.
Well,
but we know it fucking really don't.
Well,
I definitely can't
also
copy Carlton, but maybe I could try and steal some of the things he's doing. That's one thing, but for me to actually implement it and execute it, I mean, this man came and tattooed you, and I watched him in the flesh, and tried to, if we want to say copy or steal, the very fucking next day, and I couldn't pull it off, right? And so it's funny to me when dudes are even talking like, oh, he's stealing my work. Because if a dude can steal your work and do it well, God forbid, even better than you, well, fuck, man, now what?
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly, yeah.
Well, so Mesh Cow has got a good example of this. He's always like, people will take, and I know what it is. He'll do a tattoo, and they'll take the picture of the tattoo and then make their stencil from that.
Oh.
That's like copying. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
right.
if they see his work and they're like, that's fucking dope, and they like take a picture of fucking Simon or Garfunkel and then graffiti face the shit out of it and liquefy the eyes and the fucking black drool.
Yeah.
And they fucking do it. That's like stealing.
Right.
Because you can see the influence. Like, dude, earlier work of you, it's almost like Brenner did it.
Right.
So you can totally see it. And it's matured to where you still have that fucking heavy Brenner influence.
Yeah.
But you've also like, you stepped out of fucking, you learned to walk.
Yeah.
And then fucking run, and you kind of found your way.
And
Right, and that's what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
Is like, to me, there's nothing wrong with copying it, even exactly in your sketchbook, and that's just for you to like reverse engineer it, right?
Right.
So you copy it directly, so you can kind of say, how was Mishkow thinking when he did this, right? Only to mature. That's a great word for it. As your work goes along, when somebody has an extremely strong style, and then they're really popular, and then you jump on the bandwagon and you're like, I'm going to be the next whoever, right?
Right.
That's like buying the stocks at the top. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh,
Right.
Bitcoin is here. You know what I mean? So like you jump on everything. You think you're some kind of an investor, and you're just buying these stocks that you didn't invest when it was low, right? You didn't get it. It's the same idea. You know what I mean? So you want to like invest yourself into it, in an artist that you admire, and then you want to like figure out the best to your ability how it's done, reverse engineer kind of in the sketchbook or on your buddies, or tattoo yourself, and then start adding your own thing to it. Because I will there's a small handful of artists that I will really see my hand in. My last apprentice, Michael Asari, we talked about him before. His work looks a lot like you can see but he's maturing and is starting to evolve into his own thing. So to me, that's when it gets exciting.
Dude, how about your most recent apprentice?
What's that?
Your most recent apprentice, i.e. your wife.
There you go. Yeah. Like
her work looks like you're fucking doing it.
Her drawings and everything look extremely, and that's because she's the most dedicated person to me, and she's been around me as I've grown. She's been around me as I've literally like pull my hair out trying to figure something out. So she was like, by osmosis, basically.
Jeez, it's
You know what I mean?
amazing to
So a lot of
see,
people,
dude.
it's
It's
actually really
amazing.
exciting because people are like, oh my God, that's her second black and gray tattoo. And it literally looks like you did it.
Right.
But she's kind of been apprenticing for 20 years, like not technically, but really she kind of is because we're in that relationship. We've talked about this before in other episodes where she does go to the shows with me. She is right there with me. We are a unit, a team, right?
Mm.
So it, it wasn't like she knows everything. She can build coil machines. Like literally she could cast her own from the metal. Like
Mm.
it's not just putting together. She could literally cast a coil tattoo machine
Mm.
because she's been around it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great example to see
Yeah.
my hand in the work.
Yeah.
There's a painter named Boris Vallejo. Are you guys familiar with him?
No.
Um, Real awesome painter, and he's got a wife named Julie Bell, and she paints so similar to him that many times she's been accused of him actually doing the paintings, and it's just a marketing gimmick
Mm.
because it's the same type of idea, right?
Mm.
I hope that Nikki goes on eventually
Yeah.
to have her own look.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we like the same things so much that I can see her stuff looking a lot like mine. And we'll just start bouncing off of each other. Like to me, what a dream come true one day when we're collaborating, right?
Man, dude.
Like, I mean, you almost can't tell. Like we do a sleeve and it's like, where's Josh start and Nikki,
Right.
that's awesome to me.
Jeez, dude. Yep. Speaking of music as an analogy, I'll never forget when I was rolling with Brenner years ago, and I would say this was kind of the peak or height of realism really taking off. This was maybe 12 years ago, and you had Joshua Carlton, Mike DeVries, Mike DeMasi, Nico showing up, taking awards every time at Hell City for portraits. Fast forward to today, portraits don't automatically win a trophy. It's almost like today the judging is going to be even harder. Like they're so sick of portraits winning. That's why you see new school trad pieces winning. Like the game's changed today, But back then, and I was growing to be a portrait artist myself too, and Brenner is definitely someone that we can all agree found his own style, and it's unique as fuck. It's a Brenner piece. And he likened to realism artists and portrait artists, he likened them all to fucking cover bands.
Yeah.
Instead of being original artists, they're all just fucking cover bands. And so that planted a seed in me and made me realize, okay, well, what could make the difference between a portrait artist and a realism artist just being labeled a cover band? Even if you're a great cover band, you're still just a cover versus an original band. And the examples of that are the Josh Carltons of the world. And it's the analogy I've used before. We could set 5 of the world's best portrait artists down, give them all the exact same portrait, the same left thigh on every client, the same reference. They're all doing the exact same portrait. They're the top 5 in the world. We all know every one of their portraits are going to turn out spot on and look really damn good. But what's going to set one apart from the rest? For all of us consumers, or if we're judging, how could we say that the third one's cooler than the other 4? I always think is how they leave it and the style, what they do with and around the portrait. And Joshua Carlton's king at that. What he does incorporates in it, with it, and around it, how he leaves it off, blurs left side out, softens this side, darkens this side, makes it original as fuck. So we took a song that this dude was covering, and Carlton took the same tune and fucking did the dopest remix ever. So dope that it now is considered an original vibe, And I think that's a big difference between someone that's a copier and a cover band and they can execute that portrait well, or someone that can be influenced and see real taste, real style, real fucking art talent.
Yeah.
And to steal whatever, take what they're influenced from, take that portrait idea, and then put their own spin on it and shake it up with style, design, artistry. And I think that's where either you got it or you don't.
I do agree. There's a lot of talk about this just in the art world in general, where people are like, how do you measure or even find soul? Like, how do you get you can learn all these techniques, but when it comes down to it, somebody has some sort of a soul in their work that you just have to have, I guess. It's a big topic. And I have no idea what the answer is. Like, whenever I'm teaching, I always feel bad when someone's like, how do you do this? And it's like, some of those, how do you do this, is like, I just feel it in my bones. And I wish I could just tell you some, oh, you got to use this tube and this needle, because that's what they want to hear, right?
Right.
Get yourself these three, this machine, this needle, this tube, this hustle butter, and you got it, right? But there's something else there. I don't know how teachable soul is. Does that make sense?
You know what's weird is like, because it's weird because like I can see it in music now, because I'm not really into music playing as much as I used to be. But like when I started, it was around when I started playing music was around the same times Crossroads came out with Steve Vai and Ralph Macchio. And that was like mind blowing. So goal set, I want to be able to play this ending where he's battling with the devil.
Right.
So like I started experimenting into like classical. And it was just too much of a headache. And I was like, you got to sit your guitar at a 90-degree angle, and you have to get your nails out to a certain length and hold the neck at a 45. And it was just like too many rules. Then I found jazz, and jazz was like, basically you spend your entire life learning all this theory and why you need to do it and technical ability to realize that none of it even fucking matters, and you just do what feels good.
Yeah.
So like that transpired into like, okay, well, in order for the music I'm trying to play to sound good, it's got to be super fucking technical. The bass has got to be slapping. The drums got to be doing some crazy shit. The vocals have to be either fucking hitting some harmony or like spitting some cool flow. And then you listen to bands like Parliament, right? Like, yeah, Bootsy Collins is a badass. But if you listen to their shit, it's not a constant fucking intense jam. Like it might be a fucking 1-3-5 progression throughout the whole song. It's just them as a collective make it tight. Well, I started getting super fucking heavy into drugs. Band broke up, and I was like recording shit on my own, and it was like I really didn't give a fuck, or I was like in a sedated state of fucking, whatever fucking drug I was on that at time, and I would listen to it, and even like my old bandmates were like, man, that's like dirtier, like more soul to it. Which is why like Jimmy Page is held in high regards, because like his biggest fuck ups were like platinum
signature riffs,
platinum songs. Yeah. So looking back now, it was like cool. But when you ask that, like, how do you find soul? I'm like, shit, do I got to get high again to fucking find my style? And I'm like,
what is it saying?
Fuck that.
No junk, no soul.
Right. So because I've always been played with that, and one time Cotterman came over and kicked it at the shop with me and Matt, and we were just talking about things, and it was cool to hear that he doesn't see his own style, but at the same time I think he said like he just gave up looking for it because other people see it and he guess it's there, so basically it finds you, I guess. But I just appreciate those people that you just Brenner is a fucking, he's like the most, and kudos to you, Josh, because 2 weekends ago I walked in here and I was putting my shit down, and Brenner was like standing here and I was looking. He's like, Josh did that Porsche, didn't he? And I was like, yeah. He's like, man, his shit is just unmistakable. And I was like, I know, it's crazy, like your shit. And then I was telling him Josh's shit. Like you guys have a super signature that is there's no question who did it. So that's like the intense, because I'm a black and white dude. I want such an intense style like that there's no fucking doubt who did it. It can't be anybody else. And it's like, well, if I can't obtain that, then I just don't have a style. But, I've heard people say I do have a style, or they know my work. And it's not necessarily because they seen it online. They just seen it and they're like, hey, did Hip do that? And they're like, yeah, he did.
I can see it. I can see that you're still searching, but I definitely can see it, and it's a weird, again, it's maybe an unanswerable question, but like, so I can see I'd be easy to say, like, you have to let it find you. Like, you can't, if you're searching for it, you're forcing it and all that stuff. And that did happen to me. Like I naturally did always want a looser, painterly kind of charcoal. I wanted to do tattoos that were done correctly, like a tattoo should be, but looked more like a painting. And I really wrestled with that because I was just constantly told that's not possible. And I went through years of doing bad tattoos to find it, to get my footing. I did some shitty tattoos. It's like, oh, you wanted to water your color down to get a look. Cool, nice picture. A year later, the tattoo looks like shit. And I have to live with that as well as my client has to live with that. That tattoo is forever, right? And we all make mistakes, but like when you're making years of mistakes to try to find a style, really make sure you dial back the fundamentals of tattooing first.
Yeah.
To not make the same mistakes that I made.
And I think your suggestion about practice and drawing it first is so powerful. And it always blows my mind how many dudes are like, oh, I got it hit. But it always blows my mind how many dudes are like, they'll see an epic piece of art and be like, yeah, but I don't want to copy that. Because 9 out of 10 times you fucking could it. Even if you wanted to, like, go ahead, let's see you copy.
It's just like the guys. It's like the guys that come in and they're like, "Well, I want to get this tattoo on my arm, but I'm planning on getting swole." And like Zach, it's like, bro, you're not going to get swole. Stop it. You know what I mean? I think out of 30 something years of tattooing, maybe 2 people have actually done that. One of them blew my mind. One blew my mind. I did this biomechanical piece on his arm. Yeah. And he did tell me that, and I didn't say anything, but inside I was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. And like a year later, he's like, hey, I think I need to add to my tattoo. Yeah. And he came in and he looked like a fucking movie star. He was so ripped and like he was so big, his tattoo looked really tiny. And I was like, holy shit, you actually did it. You know what I mean? But the people that are like, yeah, I do it. I do it, but I don't want to. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, why don't you show us like that you can do it on that sketch pad? Like, oh, you would do that epic piece, but you just don't want to copy it. Motherfucker, only 2% of the world could even copy it. Are you in that 2%? Let's see. Or are you just talking shit, you know? It used to be funny to me, too. Even guys that you used to work with, like, on purpose, wouldn't take help, wouldn't look at anyone else's work because they don't want to be inundated. Yeah. They want to remain original, right? Yeah. But they're really unteachable and uncoachable, and their shit sucks because they fucking don't know what a good example of art looks like, and they're like just trying to figure out on your own. No, don't tell me, don't show me I'm all custom. You're like, you're all shit.
And I heard somebody say something about Japanese traditional and it may have been fucking Joey. He was like, dude, it's perfect as it is. Just fucking trace that shit and fucking put it on. Like, they've mastered it. You can't make it any better than it is.
Well, it depends, because even Carlton in the past was talking about the stark difference between real finger waves and all the knockoff versions. People trying to copy finger waves, but not, and that the real recognizes the difference.
So I believe, and I could be wrong here because this is not something I'm very versed in. I wish I was. I believe Japanese tattooing definitely is different because I'm pretty sure that all of it is based off of like a handful of woodblock prints from some old books. And so it's kind of like they did kind of draw it for you, and people have to, they'll have like a reason, like this water goes with this guy, and this guy's writing on the back of this koi fish and it means something.
Yeah.
So you do almost in that aspect have to like master what those stories on those woodblocks are and what they mean, and then translate them to the best of your ability. But there's not a lot of wiggle room, I don't believe.
Right.
Like right. I guess like a good example of maybe where somebody did their signature also would be Philip Liu, because like Philip Liu, his work is incredible, but it does look different than all the other Japanese work. You know what I mean? But like it's just somehow he's managed to do that. I feel like I'm talking in circles here, but in general, if I were to do it, because I love Japanese tattooing. Yeah, I love it. I said my heart's really drawn to it. I don't do it ever because I don't really know the rules. I would like to learn about it more if I were to do it. Yeah. But I think I would have to, again, go back to the sketchbook and just draw and draw and draw. Because I see so many garbage finger waves. I've done them back in the day. I've definitely done them. It looks like snot or something stupid, Right. You draw this koi fish and the fucking tail's too small. And like, I don't know. It looks goofy to me. It's got to be done that way. Or to me, it looks super goofy.
Right. That's great. So, Hip, as you were speaking, I found the book. Okay, for all our listeners, if anyone really wants to know, the book's entitled Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. And here's the quote out of it from T.S. Eliot. And instead of the word artist, it's saying poet, but I'm sure it's still applicable. We can say artist too. It says, immature poets imitate. Mature poets steal. Bad poets deface whatever they take, and good poets make it into something better, or at least something different. The good poet welds his theft into a whole of feeling which is unique, utterly different from that which it was torn.
Wow.
I just appreciate that. Again, it's talking about being influenced, but the difference is a good poet, and it says it will... you make it its own. Like the good poet welds his theft into a whole of feeling, which is unique, utterly different from that which it was just torn from.
Right, yeah, it's fucking filing off that serial number and giving it a new paint job.
That's it, yeah.
So when you get arrested, Hip, for stealing something, you're like, I'm an artist.
Right.
That's basically like just screenshotting Carlton's picture and changing the Instagram handle to Hip.
I just flip it.
Guardians, that's the rules. What about the people that I think we talked about this once before, but there's a couple of tattoos out there where somebody like copied a tattoo on a dude's chest, and then like they did it on an arm, but like they put the dude's nipple.
I know it.
Fucking tattooed the nipple on the dude's arm.
I know.
It was fucking like Penguin and Joker.
Jeez,
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Jeez.
That shit killed me, man.
I mean, this dude's thorough about his copying.
Right.
He's gonna copy it to the T, boy.
You imagine that feeling, like as you were doing it, if you realized, oh fuck, I literally just tattooed a nipple on this guy.
But there's a story with that's not the nipple, dude. It's like the Penguin actually in the 50s he used to have a frisbee he would throw.
Right.
And it had a little detonator on it. That's what that is.
Just making a bunch of excuses.
No, but that is such an extreme example. The difference between a copycat and actually a real artist that's influenced by something. It's like, man, I'm going to take a little of that, add that to my arsenal and make up my own. This dude didn't even realize to leave the fucking nipple out in his copy. That's how much of an artist how much he isn't and how much of a copier. This is an example of a cover band that blows ass. He can't even fucking cover the song he's covering well. I noticed too. I noticed it seems to be more of an American thing. In America, we really do call people out for copying. But I've noticed in Europe that I've seen European artists copy many other European artists, and it just seems not as weird there. Huh. Have you noticed that at all?
Well, maybe because it's the thing. Like, maybe it's the whole like that's how things progress is through someone else stealing it and modifying it and making it their own.
There's a particular artist that I love, been tattooed by phenomenal artist, and I went through his Instagram all the way back to the beginning, and there was one of the bloody mouth tattoos that I did, and it was directly copied of my tattoo. Now, I got it from a photograph, so it'd be easy to say, oh, he used the same reference, but I did all kinds of my own shit to it, and he completely copied it. I didn't care, but it was weird to see this artist that I admire so much had been copying me years ago.
Wow.
But maybe that was what we talked about. That was a stepping stone or something, you know what I mean?
Well, and that's a good example of that specific tattoo, Josh, I think lit a fire into tattoo shops all across the world, and there were so many dudes trying to emulate or do a piece similar to that. I was one of them.
I remember a lot of bloody mouth tattoos for sure.
You had one where it was just the nose and the lips.
Right.
Like there was no eyes, or they were maybe. Yeah,
I think
it was almost like the back in the tear out days, right?
Yes,
it was like
exactly.
Tear out and just nose, bloody mouth. But that tattoo was fucking mind blowing 12 years ago,
right?
And everyone, and that's again, Carlton is a different, like someone that's cutting edge. It's gonna take what's going around out there and fucking assemble his own poem and put it out, and the rest of us poets' minds are blown. Like, oh my God, he took something as simple as the tear out that everyone's trying to do and just a nose and a mouth, and he wrote that type of platinum album. Like, what the fuck, man? You know? Which is awesome. Leaving the rest of the world like, how did he do that? And the rest of the motherfuckers like, well, that's dope. I ain't going to copy that. And it's like, bitch,
Right.
I wish you would. You can't if you wanted to. Go ahead and try. You know?
What's funny is that particular tattoo was literally up on, there used to be a forum, it's called Ink Nation.
Yeah.
It was like, it's a full tattoo forum.
Yeah.
And within 24 hours, there was a copy of that tattoo already up for critique on there. I remember that. It was like,
I bet.
The bandage was still on the tattoo I did, and they had already been copied. It was crazy.
Dude, there were times where clients would ask me to do like a flesh tear out, but totally different imagery, like anything. They just wanted that border. Yeah. And I would use that tattoo as my reference to try and get it seem real, like it's a real tear out, or that there's real protrusion. And even looking at it, printing it out, trying to draw it on around my image, say I'm doing flowers, and I still couldn't do it as cool as Josh did. And I tried several times. So even me was trying to copy or steal it and make it my own. Doesn't mean I did it successfully. You know?
And I didn't always do it successfully. You guys, you don't see, talk about the bad foot. You know what I mean? I only post the tattoos that I like, and it's not like I'm putting a bunch of garbage out there, but there's tattoos that are, especially back in the day when I would do whatever for years. I just did whatever walked in the door. I was always real big on that. And I'm a much happier artist now that I'm really picky. Yeah. But, I post the things that I want other people to get. Mm-hmm. So I would do lettering and all kinds of stuff. And I would do a nice clean tattoo, but I didn't really want to sell that. So I wouldn't post it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man.
Josh showed me a tattoo in person when we were Evergreen a couple months ago that I appreciate, but thinking more on it, it's like, I don't know if someone at a lower caliber could pull it off and get the reaction, the positive reaction. So we talked about it before we were recording. He did an owl, and I was like, hey, that owl you did, is that fucking black and gray or is it opaque? He's like, opaque. So I'm like, that's crazy because it looks black and gray. Mm-hmm. Well, I seen it in real life on or Evergreen. Yeah. And it was healed. And he pointed out something to me that like I didn't question, but he did like black is the most telling of ink. So you want to make sure it's saturated. Yeah. Well, he purposely like left it like, I don't want to say blotchy, but like to give a charcoal feel to it. So like there's little splotches of like darker black, and it's kind of to someone, if someone was looking at it and didn't know who did it, they would think that they didn't saturate it fully versus like the
on
effect
purpose,
that he was
right.
giving.
Yeah.
So that's why I say like you take a good artist and then you have them try to emulate that effect. It's such the subtleness that you did it, they could get their ass ripped. But if someone's like, well, Josh Carlton did that, and you can't be like, well, I guess you don't know how to saturate fucking black because here's fucking 30 years of proof.
Well, dude, and that's something I love because throughout our upbringing, throughout all history of us being in the game, we were always taught and told you can't do that. You don't want to do that. That's not tattooable. It's not even possible. That's not even tattooable until someone fucking does it. Every time,
and that's such a bold fucking chance to take. But it's like,
I've talked about it before. Like to a newer tattooer, or really even to a seasoned tattooer, if they didn't get what I was going for, I could see it was like, well, why isn't that solid? And it's like, well, I'm thinking of charcoal. Charcoal is, the pressure of charcoal. I'm leaving these areas light on purpose, but you're trained to think there's a holiday. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think that's what you're talking about, right? Yeah. But it's a real delicate balance. So if you love that tattoo and you wanted to go try it, it would be really easy to think you were doing that, and it would just look unfinished or maybe really scratchy. You know what I mean? So
it didn't look scratchy, which is why you told me that, but like it didn't even cross my mind one, I wasn't thinking charcoal. I was looking at the piece as a whole, and I was like, that's beautiful. And then you pointed that out, and I'm like, one, I didn't notice it as being a holiday because it didn't look like an accidental holiday. It looked like it was on purpose. So it fit. But like, I don't know, I guess if some dude that I'd never heard of was like, did that, I'd be like, then maybe I would have questioned it, I guess. I don't know. It just seems, I would be scared to do that because I would be worried about, I guess, people questioning like if it was a holiday.
Exactly. There's definitely a fine line to walk for sure. You know what I mean? But it's kind of a decision I made a while ago. Like, I'm going to go for this look. I'm going all in. And, sometimes we have to get permission from other artists. I'll find another artist, usually from Poland or something, and it's way sketchier than mine. And I'll just be like, well, he's doing it, so I can do it. It's so weird that we need that. But even me like at my permission. Career, I'm the same way. I need to go, oh, it's okay. I don't know why. I don't even know this guy, but somehow it's okay because he's doing it. It's interesting.
Yep. Being given permission to do shit that it's like, dude, it's on Earth. Like, it's for all of us, Like, if
That's
it's
why
here.
I feel like all of it comes back to our beliefs and even who we're surrounded by. I shared this with the TBM students last night. Like, most of us, when we take an apprentice, when I became an apprentice. Now, Josh, I was always a realism guy, painted portraits on canvas and murals forever. So when I came into the tattoo game, I knew I wanted to be a realism artist. Now, I knew I needed to learn all the fundamentals. And like you said, I should have spent more time learning traditional how to saturate, because to this day, my portraits lack the saturation that Hip believes. If I was a little bit better at saturation, I could be one of the best portrait artists in the world. That's what you think, at least. Regardless.
I could see that.
Man, so I came into the game wanting to be a realism artist, and you know what they all told me? And they weren't being mean to me, but they told me I wasn't allowed and shouldn't even attempt a portrait until I had 7 years of tattooing under my belt. Right?
An arbitrary number.
Yeah. You at least need to tattoo 7 years before you can even start realism. Now, again, that was just the belief they held. Well, who am I to say any different? They've fucking been tattooing 7 years or plus. I haven't. But the desire in my heart was like, man, I feel called. I want to do more. From day one of my apprenticeship, 16 months later, I was at the Nashville convention with Brenner and Cotterman, and I was winning Tattoo of the Day for a black and gray portrait I did of Ani DeFranco. Nice. And when I came home, I carried Brenner. I was riding shotgun with Brenner. He was so proud of me, and I had my first trophy ever on my lap as if it's like a newborn baby.
A baby.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't want to drop it.
You're like, Brenner, don't hit the bumps too hard.
Pretty much, dude. I'm all got it bungeed around my waist, like. But dude, when I got back to the shop, instead of being greeted with high fives, like, oh my God, everyone was almost just like mad at me, like, man, fuck that guy. Like, and it broke my heart. Like, isn't that I thought the point was for me to try and get good, like as good as I possibly could. I'm doing my best. Like, you guys were all down with me when I wasn't shit. But now that I'm like figuring a few things out, we not cool no more. Like, that bothered me. But if I would have allowed their limitations to immediately become my own, I wouldn't have won a trophy on that day for doing a portrait because I wouldn't have even attempted one yet.
Right.
And so it always comes back down to the beliefs we hold and the beliefs we're going to buy into from other people's opinions. Now, I honored them dudes, but I didn't take on their limiting belief as my own. Or at least I got 7 years to decide if I ever fucking want to maybe try something. But even today, all of you artists that are saying, because every artist wants to find their style. Every artist wants to have uniqueness in their shit to look different, like we're discussing today. And every artist is probably like, but how? Even Josh was like, there's some things that maybe aren't teachable. They are, I believe. It's just how we teach them or how the student's going to pick it up. Mm-hmm. But it still comes down to, I believe, the beliefs and who you associate with, starting with, is it even possible for you? Because so many people were too quick to disqualify themselves. Josh, I mean, even the tattoo Josh did this week, on that chest, it was fucking amazing. Hopefully, but Josh, since we're so close to him, he sent us his reference. Like, boys, this is what I'm getting. I feel good enough. I get to get back in and tattoo tomorrow. And this is what I'm going for. And these days, when I see Josh's reference, I see at least 50% is untattooable. Right? Like, that's fucking amazing iPad piece.
Well, I asked him that.
How's he going to fucking do that? And sure shit, the next day he sends us a photo of that tattoo on someone's fucking chest. And by God, it was tattooable. He did it. And it's fucking amazing. Mike, if you don't mind, fucking put that piece up right now. It's not even finished, and it's fucking untattooable, mind-blowing, unique as fuck. Whatever blood, sweat, and tears this man has put in the past 30 years and whatever influences he's pulled from, my God, this poet is shooting out the same English language, but using words in a way that I've never seen put together. I didn't think the words could be put together like that. Untattooable until someone fucking does it. Now, I could look at that. Josh is our brother. I love him. I could decide, yeah, I could do that, but I don't want to copy Josh. Motherfucker. Like, I could try and do that today and won't be able to. Now, listen to that limiting belief. Or am I just at least starting at a place of honesty? And then I can live into a different question. If I really wanted to, well, what does that look like? Now let me change my belief. To live in a different question. What do I got to do? What do I need to work on? Who must I become? What type of artist must I step into becoming to even be able to pull off and play the song that Josh just wrote? How could I even at least cover it first before I even figure out how to write my own, right? Changing your beliefs and living in the possibility and to not fucking give up and to not listen to all the naysayers around you, you know, I think is real fucking key to your growth. You know, Josh didn't just get here, you know, from nowhere. This man, you know, he's falling down fucking 8, gets back up 9, right? Like, all of us, there's no way around the hustle and the hard work. It comes down to, yes, you may have been born with some talent and the it factor, but I think Josh's work ethic and passion to be cutting edge, to do something that has never been done, that's not been doing, I think is amazing and stands the test of time and just wasn't handed to him.
Yeah, I think you nailed it when you said, you know, for me, what I think it's being honest with yourself. That's like starting right there for sure. Right. And I'm seeing a beautiful trend in the tattoo industry right now. And I would love to think that I'm hoping that the Tattoo Guardians podcast is helping to steer that ship. Right. Yeah. And it is truth and honesty. Like when I see these critique forums, the number one thing I see people tell other people is slow down. You know what I mean? Like they're very honest with them about their critique, and what they're saying makes sense. And so the person's getting actual feedback, right? Yeah. But being honest with yourself, where you're at, where you know, your actual abilities. And then this is weird too, but there's little nuances too that you might want to do something that another artist is doing, and you're like, I watched them do it and I cannot fucking figure it out. My hand looks the same when I'm tattooing and I'm using the needles, and they're writing this artist and they're trying to get every tidbit of what are you using, because I want to get exactly the same thing, right? But a lot of times, you've heard me talk about different machine stroke lengths and needle throw and voltage. Those make a bigger difference than people realize, right? And so, Hip, would you say when you got the Numa machines, something was easier and something was probably harder with those machines, correct? There was something that was like, oh, this is easier with the Numa machine, but I've struggled with this until maybe you found the right waveform.
Yeah, so lining was easier, round shader work was easier. I would say what was harder was picking between two of the cams. The
right, and didn't you end up getting a bunch because of that? So because you like to play around, right? You like to just like, you know, figure it all out. And I think that's what some people are missing. I repeat myself a lot on this podcast, but I do believe that a lot of times people just hear about a machine and then they buy it because their buddy uses it and he's doing good work, right? And we all do that. Yeah. But
yeah, I bought 7 of those machines until I've actually, and the last 2 I bought, I recently switched to a different shape, grip, and level of balance for shading now. So it's like always evolving. Hell, even like when Matt was talking about people told him, you know, you can't do a portrait until you get 7 years. I started thinking and was going to chime in and be like, yeah, I was told that like you can't pack color with bug pens. And that made me be like, fuck you, I'm going to pack color with bug pens.
That's such a great example. That's such a great example.
Yeah. Then I've been thinking now this whole time, I'm like, well, maybe I should try fucking standards and I'll probably get color in better.
What's funny about that is when I was told that, dude, I didn't know there was standards. I was like, because there's something other than bug pens? I didn't even fucking know. I've been packing color bug pens for a decade.
And that's exactly what it is there's something out there. So when you feel like you're going to give up, right? You're like, man, I feel like I've done everything. I'm being honest with myself. I'm listening to Matt and Hip and Josh. I'm paying. I go to these seminars and I'm not getting it. Sometimes there's literally something in a machine or a needle or size of needle, right? The way there's little nuances and then something will click. And you'll be like, oh my God, suddenly I can do whatever it is. You know, I'll never forget when early on in my career, when I was like 17, I was tattooing at this biker shop and my machine just took a shit on me and I knew nothing about machines at all. And there was a female artist named Susie and she's like, well, hey, you need to finish it. Borrow my machine.
Fuck yeah.
And I went to fucking pack color in, which I was terrible at. And it fucking flew in. And I'm like, oh my fucking God. It blew my mind.
Yeah.
The 17-year-old kid is like, what?
Yeah.
And so immediately I'm like, what machine is that? Oh my God. And I didn't even know.
Right.
I had no idea that was even a fucking option.
Yeah.
And I was like you too with bug pens. Like I do everything with bug pens. I pack color in, I pack, black in. And I think I'm pretty good at packing color in. You know?
Yeah.
But I think that some people, I've talked with people who've been tattooing for years and they've tried bug pens once and it just didn't work out. And they're like, And then they realize they struggle with some smooth shading where bug pens would help them, right? Or I'll see somebody post a picture of someone using a 45 mag and a ton of artists will be like, nothing's going to pack it in solid after a 9, right? But then you got this guy Hoodie from, I think, Philadelphia, and he's doing the blackout sleeves that are blacker than anybody's shit ever. He's using a 45, right?
Back to
it's
beliefs.
Like limited, exactly.
I will saturate the fuck out of something with a 45, dude.
So you get these limited beliefs that you fucking believe in like it's church.
Right.
And it doesn't serve you.
Right.
You know, I'm really open-minded. Even though I'm where I'm at my career, when you see me at a convention, if I'm not working, I'm walking around and I'm looking at those portfolios.
Yeah.
You know, people are always too cool to do that. No, I'm looking for that next hip.
Yeah.
I want to see that. I want to see that magic. I still love it.
Yeah.
You know, but that kid that I'm going to find and love his work and have him on the podcast someday is open. He's an empty cup.
Yes, brother. And he's fucking lucky that there's legends like you that still walk around the show with the heart that you have. Truly with curiosity. Instead of like, another day, another show. I've been doing this 30 years, got more trophies than any of these fuckers. Ain't nothing new under the sun. He's walking around with compassion. He said he's open with curiosity, looking for the next generation to even bless and help. The fuck?
See, I knew when I met you, Matt. I met you forever ago, and I'm like, he's got it. He's got it. I knew it from day one, you know?
Man, dude. Huge.
So, you know, and you've heard my story about Hip. I saw Hip early on, but that wouldn't be there if it wasn't for you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, for me, what you were is I was like, there's an artist.
Man.
That's a fucking artist. Before he was a tattoo artist, there's an artist.
My God.
You know? So, and how long have we been friends? We've always been friends.
Right.
But it took a while for this to happen.
That's like 15
but we've
years.
We've always been connected.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Speaking of new gadgets, I remember it was you and John Montgomery's show in California somewhere. It was the first time ever. And we went out there, and it was the dude representing Hawk Machines was shared a booth with Nate Beavers. And I got tattooed by Nate Beavers that day. He did my grandma's portrait. Actually won tattoo of the day. Almost tied.
I remember watching it go down. Yep.
Yes. And that guy, I forget his name. He was a little obnoxious who represented Hawk at that time.
Which is so weird to think about because, like, you know, Cheyenne is so massive, right?
Yeah.
But you were there. If there was a baby, it was like nothing. People
Totally.
were like, "What is this?"
It was just one
one
dude
guy.
repping Cheyenne, and he was almost the annoying dude.
He was.
And I remember, like, me and Kyle Cotterman were rolling together back then, and we both were using Mickey Sharps, and they weren't broken. We weren't trying to fix nothing. Like, our Mickey Sharps were
that was
butter.
the holy grail.
And here comes this fucking almost obnoxious douchey guy trying to sell us on this Hawk machine. And I'm open. Kyle's not as open as me. You're right. But I think Kyle will shut down immediately because the rep. Now, I'm someone I can see Pat, even if I thought he was obnoxious, whatever, I was still giving him the time of day, but my Mickey's just fine. But hey, nice meeting you. And and that dude chased me and Kyle down at different shows in Nashville, whatever. And Kyle was like, "Here comes that motherfucker," right? And it wasn't till I went over and got tattooed by Nate Beavers, and Nate was using the first Cheyenne Hawk on me. I already looked up to Nate and revered him. I'm watching him do grandma's, and he fucking slayed it. So just because it was good enough for Nate to do my grandma's portrait, I bought one on the spot. Well, they had just sold out at that show. So I paid for it, and it had to be shipped home. I just remember when it got home, and I was working on an Elvis back piece, a full-color Elvis back piece. And and you know, before now they have clicks. The grips clicks. The original didn't click. The original just twisted. And so you twist it, and your depth would go out or in, but it wouldn't ever hold in spot. Like, so if you're turning it, your mag sideways, the weight of the machine would swing down, and it would twist it, which is fine.
It wasn't a pen.
That's right. It wasn't a pen. No. Right. And it didn't have that secure click grip. It just swung. And so if you turned your hand sideways, the weight of the machine would pull it down, twist it, and you change your depth. That's okay. You could dance with it a little bit. You twist it out a few, you know, and you just do that dance. But I'll never forget but it was, I didn't realize it spun. And when the machine showed up and I loaded it, it was all the way out. Like the needles were hanging way too fucking far out. And it was so fused together, I couldn't spin it. And so I just had to tattoo with the neat throw out so fucking far. And right when I hit that back, dude, talk about slamming color in. I was like, damn, it went in like butter, right? But
the guy's dead.
That's because you got a 1/4 inch of needle sinking in his
totally,
back.
Dude. Totally. But I remember being like, everyone come try this. This puts it in like none other, you know? Now, eventually I called the rep, and he was like, dude, you got to twist it. We were twisting it. It took Tony Seamer 2 vice grips, one on the grip, one on the machine, to torque it, to loosen it to where I could actually change the depth on it. It was that fused together. I thought I was going to break the thing. We had to use pliers, right? But what I'm getting at is that was a game changer to me. Even when I was able to change the depth, it still slammed it in like butter, unlike any other machine I'd ever held before. Mm-hmm. And Kyle, who worked with me, was still like, nah, fuck that. He was like protesting. He wouldn't, you know. But after I was tattooing with it a week or two, and Kyle was working on a horror portrait, I finally was like, dude, just try this. And I set it up for him. Kyle finally picked up the Hawk machine, which might have been his first ever rotary, and he tattooed with it for maybe 30 seconds and was like, get the fuck. He dropped the machine, went straight to the computer, and bought one on the spot.
Yeah.
Right?
And see,
that was the early days, but it just goes back to what Josh is saying. Just a little technique change can change everything.
Exactly. Because before that, we would set our machines up. You're holding the tube up, and you kind of go, yeah, that works. And that's your tattoo. You're not adjusting it during your tattoo, generally, right?
Right.
Like with your Mickey Sharps, you kind of locked it in and just tattooed, right? Were you constantly sliding the needle in and out? I wasn't.
Right.
But once I did that with the rotary, you start to go, well, let's see. Holy shit! If I bring the needles back a little bit more like a dime, I can shape really smooth.
Yeah.
But if I bring them out, I can pack color. What? You know what I mean?
And so how about this one? How about, holy shit, you mean I can set up 5 different paint brushes, like fucking 2 liners, a round shader, 2 different size mags, but I don't have to set up 5 machines anymore?
Exactly. I remember reading about Mike DeVries setting up 7 tattoo machines in the coil days, and we were all just like, holy shit. Or maybe it was Dino Cook. I think it was Dino Cook. But that's what we get to do now. So these people that are learning to tattoo now, if you are an artist, and the equipment is so amazing now.
Jeez.
I mean, god damn, it's you know exactly. You're talking about exactly. I mean, I was at the same show. It was mind blowing.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Do you remember the Mr. Miyagi tattoo that Kyle did at the show? That one.
Well, he did that here at Dayton at the Gem City.
Oh, that's the Gem City one. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Man, that was a cool tattoo. Though I remember seeing that tattoo.
You were one of the judges because it was it was between that Kyle's Mr. Miyagi and again Nate Beavers' Social D portrait, or was it either social disorder or tendencies?
Henry Rollins, maybe.
What's the tendencies? Suicidal tendencies. Yeah, it had that.
It was suicide. It was suicidal tendencies.
Yeah, they were both fucking amazing.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing.
And I remember because that was the first time I actually met you was at our Gem City Heart Attack show. I was already a huge fan of you because the influence you already had on Kyle. But I didn't know who you were. And again, most people never knew what you looked like because you hardly ever post your face.
Yeah, I was
dark
wanted to make it about my work. Yeah.
Right. And maybe a corner of your eyeball. Right. And so when you showed up, and I was in full on service mode, I'm the apprentice at the show, you know, and I met you. And again, I didn't know it was Joshua Carlton. But it's kind of like, you know, like one of my favorite quotes. World-class people recognize other world-class people. Or you can say, people that know love recognize other people that know love. Good dudes recognize other, right? Real necks recognize real. And when I met Josh, like, I could just tell he had a servant's heart, totally full of compassion, zero ego, and treated me like I was somebody. And I offered him, you know, it was just trying to help carry in whatever, but he immediately was like thankful that I was trying to help, but he was offering how he could help serve me. I'm like, oh no, we're here to serve you. But I remember thinking of all the artists I walked in, because there was dudes coming in from Cali everywhere, you know, Big Gus, I mean, so many heavy hitters back then. But the one that I was most impressed with, just his spirit, his demeanor, and how he treated me, was this man right here. Only later I asked who that guy was, and they're like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, Matt, that's Joshua Carlton. I'm like, get the fuck, that's Joshua Carlton? And they're like, yeah. And from that moment on, I was already a fan. Then I became an Uber fan, because you guys know how much it matters to me how we treat people. And nothing exposes a man's character more than when you see how they treat somebody that they don't even think they need, or someone's not important. I was like a nobody. But this man treated me like I was fucking treasure, you know? And
that's cool. I appreciate that you remember that. I just feel like, why be a dick? I don't know. I think I love tattooing so much that I was just as geeked out to be at the show as you. Right.
Yeah.
So I just saw another person that was like into the same shit that I'm into.
Yeah.
So we can geek out and talk tattoos. Right.
Man.
So
dude.
I see it. I see, oh, he's an apprentice, or he's whatever. It's like, I don't care. You love tattooing. I love tattooing. Fuck yeah. High five.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like,
you're right.
That's what it is to me. And to this day, it's the same. And I do feel like it went through some really dark times. And I do see it coming back up. And I see that tattooing is being celebrated a lot more. Right. Yep. And I think that's what we all fucking need. Like, I know it's like it's the best job in the world, but fuck, I love tattooing, right? Fuck, I love it. Don't you guys love tattooing?
Fuck yeah.
If you're in the comments, raise your hand if tattooing saved your life.
Jeez.
Because it fucking saved my life. And I know it saved your life, Hip, and I know it saved your, you know, like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, this is so wonderful. This is so fucking fun. And like,
right.
You know, I know we're kind of all over the place today, but let's just celebrate tattooing.
Jeez.
Fuck.
Man.
Now I want a tattoo.
And whatever he goes and tattoos is, you don't even think's possible to tattoo until he does it, you know? And we've seen that, you know, in the beginning of this episode, you were talking about almost like, I forget the wording you used, but waves of like new styles coming in that people, you know, but you likened it to buying in the market when the market's at the top, right? And even if you do that, you can ride that wave, but none of them last very long. But we see them, and it's cool. And after that wave's over, then it's time for you either find the next wave or create one. But we've seen it.
Create one, yeah.
Yeah, like right. But again, back to copying, stealing, emulating. Guy Aitchison, wouldn't we say it's safe to say that he was one of the, if not the sole inventor, creator of a whole style that we now call biomech?
Yeah.
But I would say so. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. But today, is he still the only guy that's really well known doing that sort of style? We got Ty McEwen and the list goes on, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, even though those guys kind of made it their own, even though it's the same style, organic, biomech, right? But you can tell a difference between Ty McEwen's work and Guy's work and the next guy's doing it. I remember fucking Hell City and Phoenix. Remember that show, Tattoo Wars? They were live there at Hell City, and there was a dude who got 2 full color sleeves
at the same
all
time.
weekend at the same damn time, and they didn't want the other artist to be able to see the other sleeve. So there's this dude sitting on stage, sunglasses on, because he was fucking cool and probably whatever. But and they put a cloth, you know, even the client couldn't look down and see his arms. Right. But I think it was Guy Aitchison doing one arm, and I can't remember the other artist.
I think it was Aaron Kane.
Okay, yes.
I think it was Aaron Kane.
And they did full color biomech sleeves on this dude, both his arms, all weekend long, and it was like a face-off. And they couldn't even see one another's work, right? And I remember on Sunday, and Tattoo Wars was there filming it, and then the dude was up on stage for us to all go look at. And I remember seeing, like, it's just the difference of application, because one arm, totally normal. The other arm, you couldn't, not only could you not see knuckles no more, you couldn't barely see fingers. Was so fucking swollen. Which just told me, hey, one dude's approach was maybe different than the other, because his right arm's fine, his left arm's fucked, you know, whatever the case may be. But again, there's a certain style or wave, and that wave's still been going to this day. People still get tattooed, get that style. Mm-hmm. But then we can break down little waves, like right now, you know, the cross-stitching tattoos or the embroider-looking tattoos, the sticker tattoos, right, with the big white outline and then drop
shading
shadow, right?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of little waves. There was a time where, like, mandalas and geometric shapes was like cutting edge. Now you got people doing layers and layers of mandalas and geometric shapes with drop shadowing, and then even doing it in places that we said you couldn't do. Untouchable, untattooable. Like, I saw a handpiece the other day that was all mandala with a mandala inside, with a mandala inside, a mandala inside, like the smallest little geometric, all on across a hand and fingers. Shit that we had been told, don't even attempt that. That's not tattooable. Don't even do it on the hand. And someone fucking did it and did it real well. It was mind-blowing. So there's always going to be someone to take whatever that wave is, make it their own, and make it 10 times better, you know? That shit inspires me. After I'm done being like, oh my God, it can be done. After my mind's done being blown, instead of me being like, fuck, I suck, I'm going to hang it up, I'm inspired. Like, there's still so much possibility here. And let us not fall into the trap of, well, there's nothing new to create because it's all been done, you know, because I guarantee dudes thought that way in the 90s. Dudes thought that way in the 80s, right? But it always takes a breakthrough person to stand up and be like, I can run a mile quicker than anyone's ever done in the world. It's not possible. Watch this, right? I
think the biomechanical that you just talked about is a great example of what we started with what Hip was talking about. You know, because you had Guy Aitchison doing this, and then these people that loved it, they copied him, and then it just evolved into their own version, right? And some of these people that were like a kid that nobody heard of is now Ty McEwen. You know what I mean? Now he's the guy, right? So now newer tattooers discover him, and then hopefully they have a good heart and they realize, oh, he comes from Guy, and you know what I mean? And it's like, then you start to study this, and it's a beautiful cyclical thing where you just learn, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's where their heart's at if they're into it. And I fucking love that. I love watching the evolution of tattooing.
Me too. And I love the artists that honor the poets before them.
Exactly. Yeah, you got
who they got their inspirational work from. I love it when that's why I was shocked that Lil Wayne was like, yo, my number one fucking influencer is Missy Elliott. Like,
yeah, and you hear it all the time. You'll be like the last, somebody from the Foo Fighters who they're, and you automatically kind of think it's going to be a similar sounding band.
yes.
And it'll be like some old blues, something that their dad showed them, a Pink Floyd, and something that doesn't sound anything like them. But then when you realize it, you're like, wait a minute, I do hear a little tiny bit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I do love that. So I can look at Hip's work and I know Hip very well. So I know his influences.
Mm-hmm.
And like me, I know his unhealthy influences.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to throw you under the bus. But you can see it, and then you see it evolving, and then all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, this guy that he's been influenced by, he's surpassed. So now it's like, well, where's this going?
That's right.
Now that's where the magic really happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you surpass this idol. So you can't, what are you measuring against?
All right.
Right? Yourself.
Yeah. Jeez, dude. Yeah. So good. So good and so fun. Oh man, that's good shit. A quote I saw earlier, and it's not even really a quote, just like a suggestion. I love it. Someone put this on Twitter. It says, "Stop telling yourself you're not qualified, not worthy, or not experienced enough. Growth happens when you start doing things you're not qualified to do."
Right.
Right? Again,
absolutely.
Clarity comes in the doing, but you don't have to risk fucking up someone's leg or arm. Mr. Carlton is giving you the greatest fucking stepping stone in the world for us tattooers. Emulate, copy, steal, and do it on your sketchbook first. Even me, like before, like if I wanted to try and just copy the tattoo he did on the chest this week that I'm already saying is untattooable. Well, obviously it's tattooable. He tattooed it. Even if I printed that and tried to do it in pencil or charcoal and copy it to a T, even if I pull off a decent version of it, it's still not going to be his. But if I ever wanted to try and tattoo that way, I think that's great advice. Can you fucking draw 10 different versions of it and it look like great? Not only is that also you're practicing, how you're going to tattoo it, then maybe take it to skin and put your own twist on it, and you might have a shot instead of just jumping from inspiration to skin and being like, oh, no, I didn't pull it off.
And then we talk about, practices of hiring artists and stuff. When I'm around an artist that I tell they need to, usually slow down is one of them, more black is one of them. But when I tell them I have Nikki draw to completion her tattoos before she does them, if they're like, I ain't got time for that, it's like, I ain't got time for you.
That's right.
You've given me all the information I need. The fact that you're wearing a top hat and have goggles on that hat, that's more important to you than sitting down and drawing. I know everything there is to know about you.
That's right. Next.
And I'm not interested.
No kidding. And our listeners today, because you're hearing Josh is like been spitting fire, and even like little nuances, little tech talk, things like this. So for you listeners, I do believe that Josh is going to open his doors up again to his coaching program. Right now it's all full, but I do believe he's going to open the doors up again. And again, if you're at a place where you really want to keep growing and learn more and be able to sit and talk with Josh and surround yourself with other like-minded artists on maybe some of these tips, tricks, and nuances of different machines, all of that. If today's conversation, you're a kid in a candy store, then keep an eye out on Mr. Carlton's pages. I'm sure, even mine, because we love it. We'll announce again when he's taking on more students in the very near future, I presume.
I think so. I appreciate it. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I thank you, everybody. We barely announced it about. It's what I'm calling everything I know. It's literally that. I'm really giving you everything. This is beyond the gamut of just black and gray. It covers color, black and gray, painting, things that I swore I'd never share. Yeah. I'm really giving it all, and it's sold out. Like I think it was not to brag, a matter of days. I'm very, very fortunate. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I have several people that have written, and right now I'm saying, let me just sit on it for a minute. But I believe I will likely open it back up. Yeah. To again, it'll be very small, to 20 people probably max, maybe a little bit more. But I want to keep it tight. Yeah. I'm very selective. This is not an apprenticeship or anything. That's right. This is for a very seasoned artist that is interested in what I'm doing and growing to their next level,
Yeah.
So, yeah,
well,
for sure.
I'm sorry for bringing it up right now. If you get bum rushed after this show, but if you do, are you even keeping a waiting list? Like, people heard this, even if they write you like, I know you're not, but dude, will you add me to your waiting list, or will you even keep that?
I think that would be a good idea. That way I don't want to like promise anything.
Yeah.
But if you're interested and you want to message me, we'll get you on the waiting list. I'll break down what I'm doing, what I'm offering, because it's pretty different. It's a different approach,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think so. If message me through whatever social media.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can go from there.
Awesome. I'll tell you, because we know a lot of your first round current students, some of them are my students as well. I couldn't be happier for them. I couldn't be happier for you, Josh, but they are fucking over the moon stoked. Starting that they even got accepted, that you said yes to them. And they're just really stoked. I mean, these are students who have spent months with me in my class. And yeah, and they're just fucking, they can't
Well, I think it's
wait.
a perfect blend. I think that I really like to work directly with you. I think we work pretty closely together with what you are giving people. And then I think this is just another side of it.
Totally.
And, like I said, I just decided, like when I called it Everything I Know, it's, I know I keep repeating myself, but it really is everything I know. I had to really give it some thought. I hear my grandmother's voice and she's like, don't tell them everything, you know what I mean? And I'm like, you know what? I want to see people flourish. So I'm going to do it, and I'm extremely proud of it. I've really dedicated a lot of energy and time into this.
My God.
I'm feeling really good nowadays. This new chemotherapy was very rough on me the first couple of weeks, but it's getting better. So I'm at the shop a lot more. And I just love tattooing more than ever. I didn't think that was possible. But when I walk into my studio, I feel like I'm home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Man. So I want to share that with other people. I want other artists to feel that, because so many artists that I talk to, they're so tired and stagnant and burnt out. It doesn't have to be like that. I'm going to show you ways to make you fucking skip to work.
Man.
Because you can. You know it. You guys know it.
Yes. I love it. Yes, and it is a great fit, because it's, everything that I don't know and everything that I don't teach, you do, right?
Yeah, I think this could be the future of things. Like, this isn't, like I said, not an apprenticeship. This is a furthering education. That's what you do in the rest of the world.
Right.
But with tattooing, it's always kind of been like you learn and you're kind of on your own.
Right.
You know what I mean? And this is like a group of like-minded artists that are like, fucking, let's go set the world on fire together.
Right. Yep.
Right. And that's the power in that is just,
It is, man. Jeez. So good. I want to take your class. I didn't even ask you this time because I know spots are limited and I wanted to basically not take a seat for anyone, but I definitely want to join, or whenever, if you say Clemmer, since it's you, I'll create. I know I stopped at 25, but you could be number 26. Just sit in the back of the room and shut up.
Yeah, I was hoping originally it was only 20, and I hope no one cares. But there was so many people. Like one guy, I ended up gifting it to him because he was such the perfect guy, and it just financially he just wasn't in a place. And I was like, you know what, I want you to be there. So I opened it up and to gift it to him because this guy, I don't know, I just felt like I needed to do that. So there's a little more than 20, but it'll all work out.
Absolutely. Good shit. And Hip, maybe you should take it so you can
I messaged him before you even
he just messaged me that he wants to take it. So
he's good at that, man. Stepping all over.
Well,
my
and
dick.
I wanted to do it this time too, but I didn't know what the dates were or anything. And with just being hired on with being a coach for TBM, I was like, man, I don't want shit to cross. Yeah. So,
and for you listeners, because I'm sure you guys know we are brothers here. We love one another, and we love and support one another, and not just word, but in deed. So when Hip and I do sign up for Mr. Carlton's class, we pay full price. And even That's right.
Skin in the game.
That's right. Skin in the game. Your transformation begins in the transaction, you know? And even if he wanted to give us a homie hookup price, which I'm sure he wouldn't mind doing that, but he knows the importance of skin in the game. And for our transformation, the greater the transaction, the greater possibility for transformation. If Josh gave us free or half off, he could be robbing us, you know?
What great people to... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I really love that because that's actually one of the things Matt taught me from when I took his course originally.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's just like, you guys would never, ever, ever expect the homie hookup. Right. Wouldn't allow it to happen.
Right. And I charged you full price.
You charged me full price and I happily paid it. And so your potential students write me all the time. Mm-hmm. They're like, hey, what's the deal with this? Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm going to be straight up honest with you. I paid full price and this is going to sound cheesy. If I knew what I would have gained from it, I would have paid fucking triple.
Yeah. Right.
I've made way more back. So why wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, I know that sounds like a sales pitch. I'm sure you guys think, whatever, I don't care. Take it or don't take it. But I promise you'll fucking be happy if you do. But I fucking took it. I paid every penny. I didn't fucking get any kind of deal. Didn't ask for a deal and expect it. And Matt certainly didn't offer it. There's a reason for that.
That's right.
And that's what taught me.
Yeah.
When your homies want your services, being the individual who's giving the services, there's that. You want to hook them up, but also you got to stand in like your best version of yourself. And what greater people than to fucking practice on, you know? Because Matt's the type of dude, and I'm the type of dude that if you're like, look, man, it's you, like here, I'd be like, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
But I also can relate with the feeling too, because if someone wants my services and they're my homies, like I would almost feel that way. But I know I'm safe with you guys that you'd be like, nope, we're not letting you shrink.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, it's like the guy that I gifted it to. I only gifted it once I knew he didn't expect that in any way, shape, or form.
That's staying in authority.
Yeah, and so once I knew it wasn't about that, I was like, look, man, I just feel this. I want to do this. He almost wouldn't take it. He made him cry, and he was just like, but it's like, you know what? I just feel like you need this, and I want to gift this to you. You know, but again, and you taught me that, Matt. It was after I knew.
Yeah, brother.
You know, so that was helpful.
Yeah, man. Good shit. Good shit, man. Josh is re-stirring the passion pot for our fucking line of work. And I know you don't even call it a line of work. Hip don't call it a job. You don't even call it a career, do you?
Lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
Absolutely. I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed. It's so easy to say that. But, you know, when tattooing is taken away from you, you know, through people that, you know, with all the COVID we went through and everything, and my own personal stuff with cancer, you know, I've said this before, but I thought I was going to retire when it was up to me. But when cancer made that decision for me, you know, that's when I fucking was like, fuck you. Right. I'm fighting with everything I have. And now just getting to go in and tattoo a little bit, I can't even describe the feeling that I feel when I'm tattooing now after all these years. Like, I almost feel bad because it's like everything to me. It's my whole fucking life is so laser focused on tattooing right now. And it's incredible that after all these years, I can still feel that. Like, what an incredible gift.
No,
but I look at it differently than I ever have now too. It's a lot of it through your course, you know? So it's like, I don't know. It's a lifestyle. There you go, Hip. That's really it. That's the best possible answer I can give. And once I accepted that and I put my own self-doubt and fears and just really embraced it, like my shop too, it's flourishing. I got a crew and we're all super happy and we fucking bounce off of each other ideas and it's just beautiful, you know?
It's huge, man. So good. Yes. And there is power in growing together, learning together, coming up together. You and I both know what it's like to work alone in our private studio and we end up missing being surrounded by other like-minded people. Even if it's just a wean off of one another, double check my light source, whatever. It's always, man, again, one of my favorite quotes is, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, we got to go together.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Just power and fucking growing together like iron sharpening iron. But who you associate with? Who are you surrounded by? right? And we've spoke to this before, like you may tell yourself, hey, there's no one like that in my shop or my town. So now what? But I love listening to the Guardians podcast. You guys have helped me a lot, but I'm all alone over here. Well, you don't have to be, because it doesn't stop here. As you know, we're creating some real in-depth communities called Tattoo Business Mastery, called Everything I Know by Joshua Carlton, to where you can still, these are doors you can walk through and meet your tribe of other like-minded badasses from all over the world to continue growing with, no matter what shop or town you're in. You're lucky. Again, Josh's tattooing's come so far with the technology, with the machines, with all the education that's out there. Like, y'all got it better than anyone when it comes to the resources that are at your fingertips, you know. And guys like Carlton, let alone the giants that went before us all, that have had to, the blood, sweat, and tears, and pave the way and learn all the hard ways so that it can be edited and delivered unto you on the platter in 2022. You know?
Wow, yeah. I can't imagine being learning today, like how crazy different it would be. Like, you know, learning with a mask on, you know what I mean? Like,
jeez, yeah.
Just the difference is crazy, you know?
Yeah, man. And I've been back to beliefs, because, you know, I even told this story last night. We've got a guy, Ross Shue was an apprentice of ours, and he was a master oil painter and college professor teaching realism, oil painting, portraiture, amazing portrait artist, right? And then he hung up his, teacher's cap, his college professor cap, to come learn the art of tattooing. Now, usually when we start, now, first of all, Josh, I don't know if you knew this. Every apprentice for Mile 9 does their first tattoo on me.
Wow.
Every apprentice, I have them do their first one on me. I'm taking full responsibility.
Wow.
Unless they have unless they have a significant other that, like, if his wife wants his first one. But usually that don't happen. They're always on me. And you know, most first tattoos are simple. Mine was like a black spade. And I remember when Brenner told me, hey, I had a 15 mag and make little circles, I wiped away. I remember immediately being shocked how hard it was to get something saturated fully black. Like just getting something solid as a first tattoo, right? Well, Ross Shue is an anomaly, but I decided, speaking of beliefs, I decided to test the waters and change my own belief on how we do things. Because usually we'll take an apprentice, here's your first tattoo, and get good at these fundamentals, and we'll work our way up to one day, someday, in my case, 7 years from now, a portrait, right? Well, with Ross Shue, I decided for his first tattoo, out the gate, for it to be a full color portrait as his first tattoo on yours truly, on me. And it was a portrait from the Netflix documentary, The Black Godfather. Anyways, because side note, I always think it's some of my most favorite portraits to do is portraits of African American or black folks on white skin. Because we can't do a full color, African American on an African American. We got to do black and gray. But anyways, it was his first tattoo. He did a portrait. How'd it turn out, Hip?
Oh, amazing.
Absolutely amazing. No one would believe it's a first tattoo.
He let it breathe, fucking didn't fully saturate. It was great.
Mike, if you don't mind, go ahead and put that portrait up on the screen for them to see. Guys, believe it or not, this is a first tattoo. Hopefully, this fucking just blows your mind and jumbles up your belief systems on how we have to treat someone out the gate. Yeah. And I decided, instead of working at ground zero and trying to take him to level 10 in 10 months, let's come out the gate with a different belief of what could be possible and start him out at level 10. Shoot for the moon. And even if we don't hit it, it is what you're doing with Nikki. And so guess who's going to be fucking a badass way quicker or out the gate? Nikki, she already is. Look at her drawings. Look at the tattoos she's already done. But it's because the belief that he's instilled in her and where he's starting her out at is from a different level of belief that you already, it's already possible for you to do something dope out the gate versus you got to do all this other shit and then someday, one day, try and become who you want to be. Let's start you out with the belief that you are already there. Now let's walk it out, you know?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And that's not to say don't learn the fundamentals. You're learning the fundamentals through all of this.
That's
We're
right.
not skipping steps. You know
Never.
what I mean?
That's right. Copying versus stealing. And I'm from the camp. If you can do either well, go for it. You know?
I think it's a respect thing as well. Like definitely
big time.
You know, if you obviously are being heavily influenced when you post stuff, you know, say, you know, to big honor this person. And even better than that, if they're alive, get permission. I've reached out to tons of photographers and been like, this is beautiful. Do you mind?
Yes.
99% of the time, they're super excited.
That's right.
You know,
That's right. Even when you were working on a piece, who's that artist you like that mainly does the black and yellow, almost
Ulysses Blair.
Yeah. And you asked him because you were trying to emulate one piece, right?
Well, it was that piece that I want to evergreen of the Cardinal. Like,
okay,
my roses were starting to look like his, and I reached out to him, and he was like, "I don't give a fuck, kill the shit." And I was like,
"But
cool."
At least you respected the game and respected that man to even get permission, even to know that he don't give a fuck. So now when he sees it, he's probably gonna be have some pride or be proud and honored because you honored him by, like Mr. Carlton just said, pay him the respect.
But then also, I actually changed the roses and like fought with them to make them not look so much like his because again, I was like attached to that word stealing like it was a bad thing, which is why like I brought up this whole topic is because like, you know, bad artists copy, good artists steal. So like, fuck it. Josh, do I have permission to try to be you Friday at Hell City?
Good luck.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that the last version that you sent me is awesome.
Okay. Well, she vetoed it, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he's back to the drawing board, but we've talked some other ideas.
Yeah, and I think the way I'm going now is just going to be a little bit more classy, so.
Okay.
Cool. Yep.
On that note, we're Hell City bound, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
Even though you guys listening, Hell City just ended, and it was fucking amazing. I'm saying that in faith. My goodness. Mr. Carlton, thank you for your wealth of knowledge today. Hip, thank you, brother. Guys, thank you for your listening faithfully and writing us. I'm telling you, keeps us in the game. We're human too. Some days we get discouraged, and then we'll get a message from one of you, and it gives us the fire to keep going. So thank you for all your listeners, especially those of you who engage. Follow us on Instagram, you know, Tattoo Guardians Podcast. We just created an Instagram a few months ago, and there's like 20 followers.
Right.
You know?
Please tell your moms, your dads, your brothers, your sisters.
Man, that's good, Hip. Okay. We
want that official blue check mark.
Yeah. Yep. Only 9,500 more to go.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Thank you all so much every week. We love you. Keep going. And we'll see you next week.